Today we're going to talk about what an NCAA spokesperson had to say about Bru McCoy and his transfer to USC, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kid folks? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step bill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button. Today we are going to talk about Bru McCoy. Yes, I am fascinated by the Bru McCoy saga because it is unheard of in college football. The transfer portal giveth, and the transfer portal continue to giveth. There's over 400 guys in the transfer portal according to 24/7 Sports. And this dude is at the top of the list as one of the known commodities to go through it and ostensibly come out of it. This time at USC. Now, he's unprecedented because this would be the first time that we'd ever seen a guy sign, enroll with a school, and then decide to transfer to another school a day after enrolling, and then transfer back to the school he announced his transfer from in the first place inside of the semester. The dude did not play in one competitive game, not one competitive snap for the University of Texas, and now he wants to go back to USC. Now, it's reportedly because of homesickness, and homesickness is not a joke, but most of us who move far away from home go through it from one time or another. But it seems that Bru McCoy is going to try to have his cake and eat it too. Now, he was probably going to get the waiver request that so many players have gotten granted in this new age of the hardship waiver request not being so hard to get requested and granted. Now, there's still guys that get turned down, but the high-profile guys that we're all watching and we want to know where they end up, they seem to be getting it. And Bru McCoy seemed to be a guy that was going to do that. But one, he didn't even sign his own waiver request at the University of Texas, which is the biggest signal. And two, it seems that he was comfortable knowing what an NCAA spokesperson had to say to my homeboy, an SJI 2012 alum. Shout out to my boy Antonio Morales, who covers the USC for The Athletic. Now, Antonio had a really cool thought experiment that he put to an NCAA spokesperson that I want to give to you right now. And it goes like this. He said, this is my boy Antonio in The Athletic. So, a player signs and enrolls at School A in January, then decides to transfer a few weeks later and signs a financial aid agreement with School B. That player enrolls at School B and practices with the football team that same semester. Once the semester ends, the player decides to transfer back to School A. What would his eligibility be at School A? Would he have to sit out the upcoming season? To which the NCAA spokesperson said yes, unless a waiver is sought and granted. Now, the likelihood of a waiver being sought, can't stop anybody from seeking a waiver. The likelihood of the waiver being granted, probably not. For reasons that you already can ascertain. Homesickness is not really going to qualify, but you're not really wanting to throw it out because it seems like most folks are getting their hardship waiver request granted if they word it correctly. And who's to say that Bru McCoy's folks won't hire a well-to-do attorney to word it correctly and give the NCAA the business to try to get him to play right away at USC? And the grounds for that, I'm not an attorney. This is not legal advice, but I find it interesting that one, Clay Helton was saying Bru McCoy and his family will always be family at USC. So I think he was already setting up for a transfer back to from Texas to USC, maybe in a couple of years if Bru McCoy finds himself buried down the depth chart. But what I did find most interesting, and what Clay Helton said on the record is, he does count as an initial counter because he was at USC. It counts within your 25 limit this year. You garner that scholarship back come fall. So it is in your initial, but you acquire it for the upcoming season if you decide to garner it for a blue shirt, a walk-on, or if you want to use it for a midterm enrollee at the end of the fall. All that to say that it was in Clay Helton's best interest to take Bru McCoy back anyway because he'd already had the scholarship count against the 25 that you are basically allotted each year to sign in a class. Now, some of that is tricky because rolling over from early enrollees and so forth and so on. But it was very clear that Clay Helton wanted Bru McCoy because he is a dynamic wide receiver, because he did have a college-ready body, and because he was the #1 athlete in the country for the 2019 class, and everybody wanted this dude. Like, we talk about him as a wide receiver, and I get that, because he played at Mater Dei with JT Daniels, with Bryce Young, with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and others. But what I was most intrigued about with Bru McCoy is Nick Saban wanted him at outside linebacker, which tells you everything you need to know about what kind of athlete Bru McCoy is and what kind of frame he already rocks around with. Now, we're going to continue to ask questions about, hey, what happens in a few years when it's time for the NFL to scout you and to evaluate you? This is going to be brought up as a thing. Now, you'll be able to bat it away if you're a great player, and I understand that, but I still think that it's worth asking him to his face. Hey, we're the Buffalo Bills. Hey, we're the New York Jets. Hey, we're the Carolina Panthers. What's going to happen to us if we draft you? Are you going to be homesick? Now, it could be a petty way to do it because dude's going to have a few years to grow up, and I understand that. But I also think he set himself up for this against his parents' wishes, and also after the University of Texas sent a contingent after him to go find him. But the NCAA spokesperson said what I expected that person to say, but I'm glad that Antonio tracked this down and Antonio put this hypothetical in front of an NCAA spokesperson so we know what could happen if Bru McCoy does seek the waiver. But you're asking me, I think the dude's going to sit out next year. I think it's good for him. I think the red shirt will be fine. I don't expect USC to be any good next year anyway, and I expect Clay Helton to be fired. It's all a matter of whether or not there are going to be pieces still there to play with Bru McCoy when it is time for USC to put up or shut up in 2020. All right, that is it for me. Doses.